9, we are going to convene the, somebody's coming on November 26th. I'm gonna call it December 10th Water Sewer Commission meeting. I'm gonna start with a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic
which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everybody. I think we're gonna start with a superintendent update.
Received a few more complaints about the water machine. It is not broken. It is just being used a little more than was anticipated.
We'll call it overused.
Overused. Some people.
We have our initial filter plant. It's over at the town hall.
Right. After speaking with the guys from Blue Drop, the last time when they came out, the one half of the machine was operational and the other wasn't, was due to the fact where it had been run dry so many times that there was actually damage to one of the pumps.
Oh boy.
They have since replaced that. The machine is back up and fully operational. In the short time that they were there doing the repair, they did notice multiple vehicles pull up and range from 30 to 50 gallons of water each person took at a time, which seems quite excessive for the average homeowner.
Yep.
Unless they're trying to store it for a month, which is not recommended.
Probably not the way to go.
Not the way to go. So again, they asked that the board may want to reconsider possibly putting some type of sign on there to request a limited amount per resident. If that's, they just are obviously not looking to come here on a monthly basis and replace parts that are caused by unforeseen use, or use, however you want to look at it.
Yeah.
The only other option that I had come up with, and I have not reached out to Blue Drop if it's even possible, possibly to slow the rate in which it fills containers. That would deter from...
Make it equalize. It only lets out what it can process. Because I know it filters it rather slowly.
It is rather slow to fill. I don't remember the exact numbers. It only holds so much water at a time also.
Right.
I think if we limited the amount of water that the machine releases at one time.
People get sick of it and just by...
I don't think you're going to see so many people filling up a trunk.
Yep.
Just to verify it, I was on camera the other day and there was somebody who showed up with 40 one-gallon containers. Their trunk, they were dragging when they left the parking lot, whether they needed some weight for the winter or they really like the water, I really don't know, but it's kind of unfair
40
to the average person that shows up that has one or two.
Right.
And unfortunately, we talk about it often, it's usually the elderly that show up with 1 or 2 gallons.
Right.
When they're able to get there, and
Right.
they're the ones that, for whatever reason, just have the worst timing, and that's when they show up and it's either partially working or not working at all as it's trying to regenerate.
We've all talked about this before, folks. Anything new? The first, go ahead.
A sign, I think, is going to be, we're looking at for another fight with the sign. I know we went through this before, and I know that we thought it would be, we're different now, I mean, because everything seems to be ready. We're getting there with the
treatment plant.
At the treatment plant, and there was no hope on the horizon, as it were.
There was no hope.
So, we decided not to put the sign out because it was going to cause more of a furor than anything, and I don't know if that has it done. It's actually changed a lot since then. I think we should probably. I like the idea of slowing it down because that will, I think, that may deter people from, because they're going to be there for an hour and a half filling jugs up, and
It's just the nature of the next person in will be like, hey, when can I get in there?
Yeah.
They'll do it on their own, kind of, maybe, I don't know. Scott, any input?
The only thing I would suggest is get the second one.
Double them up. They
That way-
don't come cheap.
I know,
you know?
but we have bad water, so until we have good water, that'd be an option. Yeah, I mean, it's obviously everyone's opinion, but, so, it's an idea. Cause if it's overused, then we'll have 2 broken ones, so it's not gonna help anyone either,
Right.
but, I mean,
I think
We got one
unfortunately, yeah, I think unfortunately it would be the few are ruining it for the many. I think there are probably some maybe out-of-towners who are overusing the machine and running it dry, and then it has issues. I don't think it's, I don't think a regular consumer comes in and fills 6 5-gallon jugs or 40 gallons.
It doesn't seem like a logical amount that the average household would use, even with kids.
how much do you think, yeah, I have no idea, that's why I'm wondering, I mean, I don't think about how much water I pour out of the sink or whatever, but.
Right, a lot of people
So 2 gallons, 10 gallons.
really
no
don't
idea.
calculate it. I mean, if you do a lot of cooking at home, yeah, you're gonna use some water. I mean, most people, I don't think are gonna be using it to wash their dishes in the sink.
Yeah.
Most people don't do that anymore.
Right.
You know, it's not like you're gonna shower with it. The amount that people remove from the machine really seems excessive, unless they're only looking to come here once or twice
Right.
once a month or twice in 2 months. I mean,
Yeah.
that could be what's going on, and there's just a run at the same time because everybody's running low at the same time. I really don't
Right.
have any reason for it, and it's unfortunate that we run into the situation that we do. Obviously, we don't want the machine to have mechanical failure. That just creates more of a problem.
Right.
It's a catch-22, people get using more when they use it, because they're worried about the next time it being broken, so now it works and they load it up, but that's the reason why it's breaking, so.
Is that the only size machine that they offer? Do they have a larger capacity
You want the
size?
jumbo.
I don't know, I don't know really anything about it, I mean.
I can look into it. I believe that's a standard size unit
Okay.
that they use. I know we have the extra filters that are in there, which we increase capacity on.
Okay.
As it's getting colder now, the machine slows down because it takes longer to filter the colder water. So there's a few things working against us this time of year.
What about just I mean, and this goes against my initial thought, but what about 10 gallons per person? 10 gallons per trip or some crazy thing, or?
I mean, we're not gonna be there enforcing it.
No.
But for the
it-
average
it's-
person that's gonna think outside the box and say, yeah, maybe I am affecting my neighbor who can't.
Right.
Or what about a sign that may say that overuse will cause
Right.
an issue, however we put it.
Overuse has been causing the machine to fail.
Yep.
Please limit consumption to 15 gallons per visit.
Do you have the pump shut off when it gets not to empty, but like,
Yeah, I
down
think
the
they-
bottom
I
of the
think
piece
they
of
will.
it?
I think it's automated.
I think they,
Oh,
you know what I mean?
that
I
was
think.
prevented from going dry.
I think
Yeah.
that, I've seen kind of
Yeah,
the inner workings of the madness, and I think
Yeah.
it's trying to do everything it can,
Yeah.
and then you put another couple of fail safes, and it's,
yeah, that's true, more things go wrong.
yeah.
So if it's maybe more folks from out of town, if that's
It's,
what's
I'm just
happening.
guessing,
It's
I don't know, you know what I mean?
But you could say something like, Norton Water reserves the right to check that your license.
And who gets,
Set
who
up
gets
stings.
the, we get somebody sliding by checking IDs, you know what I mean? Who's gonna be that guy?
Well,
Put
Put a
if-
board up with a box and
you
say,
just
put your
reserve
ID
the
in front
right,
of
it
this
doesn't
box,
mean
A retinal
you-
and then
scan.
take the water.
I don't know, out of the box
That
idea.
would be cost effective.
I could put a little blue light behind it, and then like scan,
Or maybe a 20-minute time limit.
The rate and with this.
or time
how
limit.
it
Yeah, or
Or we could have Peter Wiggins
I was
have
gonna
there with
say-
a seat.
You'd
And
stop there from
then-
time to
we
time
could
and
have
check
people
people
in
in.
there.
Yep.
Just when you were in the area,
Yep.
you know, you're at town hall from time to time.
Yep.
We got a guy.
I like it.
And,
The other thing is, as we do approach our water filtration plant being online, I think our water will improve, and maybe the tank, the vending machine is just going away. You know, I hate to do it, but if, it seems logical not to overuse something that, I guess I'm stepping on my own words, something that's free. They think it's free, so slam it. But, then you wanna be mean and say continued overuse of this machine will lead to its removal. use wisely, people.
You're gonna see a bunch of people up here with sickles and fire.
Yeah,
hands.
right, right.
That happens on
What the hell's a
Tuesday.
sickle?
You got it. Aside.
Is it a side or a sickle?
Could be a sickle.
Yeah, I have thrown all the same ideas.
When they're coming
at you
after you with it, it doesn't really matter.
That really doesn't matter.
We talked about all the same ideas.
Yeah.
You know, off camera and just in general. That's where I come up with that, if we could restrict the flow. I
Yeah.
don't know if it would be beneficial for,
I'd give that a shot first before we
Tweak
put the
that.
sign up.
if we can, I don't know if
that's an
if we
option.
have the option.
Yeah.
But it's something I was gonna talk to the Blue Drop guys about, I mean, as to
Ask them
whether-
about a larger capacity,
Mhm.
something that they, you know, they must have this problem elsewhere. You know.
Well, they
I believe we're the
usually,
only free machine.
they
Yeah.
usually,
What's that?
they usually
Yeah, they're only
quarters.
free.
Usually it's a quarter a gallon or some crazy thing, right?
Attleboro.
And, right, and that in and of itself slows the people down, believe it or
Yeah,
not.
that's true.
They run out of quarters maybe, or, I don't know, who knows?
Yep.
But, if you can get that restriction in
I'll
the
reach out and see what we can do.
outputs, that might
Might
tie us
be a
over.
start, might buy us some time.
Because I really don't want to do a whole, I mean, you know, there's a large capacity copper line that feeds this machine, and I know we could pull another machine off that one, but it's just so much to get another thing going.
For potentially a month.
Right,
Yeah.
what could actually, even if
Would
it's
be
6,
short term.
even if it's 6 months,
Yeah.
you know, it's really, in the big picture, not that long. So, short term, let's look at the flow restriction and just politely ask anybody who's watching to just not overuse it, take what you need for the short term, because storing water is, for a long period of time, is not a good idea.
And I saw on social media that someone was filling Gatorade bottles, 19 of them.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Well, you know what the problem is with that, Pete, though, too, is weight.
Yep.
A lot of people can't, like, the elderly are not gonna be able to lift much, you know, you're
Right.
talking, what, 8
Right.
pounds?
Yeah.
You know,
For
Yeah.
a container.
In a
yeah.
a
gallon.
container, I mean, that's a lot of weight, you know,
Yeah.
for some of the elderly that
Yeah.
you were talking about.
And especially if they have to travel, you know, bring it inside a residence or something, or upstairs.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep,
Yeah, it makes sense. Again, if that's the same person, you don't think you would be taking 40 at once either.
yeah.
Probably not
That's-
40.
That's not typical.
No,
right?
I don't see that happening, unless they're into the reps.
They could be
Yeah,
getting
they
it
could be
for the whole
able to work
development,
on
it
it.
could be their turn, I mean, there could be reasons for why things
Could
have
be
had to
their
work out. It could be on a rotating basis, they lost bingo aside.
Right.
Anything's possible.
Yep.
We have yet to ask these people.
No, they won't tell you.
Do a
They
survey.
probably,
No.
they probably wouldn't take too
No.
much to that.
No.
The water main is near completion at 5 and 6, which will bring the water from the newly rehabbed wells to the treatment facility. There was a small section that's left, they had some delays because of the weather. We did purchase some pipe accessories to help us down the road. The 2 hydrants that are in place now will become low flow hydrants and only run off of each station when the station is running. I'm gonna be in contact with Deputy Keene to find out if you'd like to have those bagged or painted a certain color so that they're not always an active hydrant, and that the connections that we provided to, I can't remember, who's the guy?
Benny Smith?
Emmy Smith, there you go. That one couldn't get. Emmy Smith, we provided him with a T and valve assembly, and we will go back, once they are out of the area, and install a new hydrant on the line. So if there's a brand new hydrant in there, we're gonna do that out of stock here.
Excellent.
with
So
our
you're
guys.
talking about tagging, painting a hydrant a whole different, like a one solid color? When it's, because that's only gonna be in use when the plant's on?
When the plant is running
Okay.
with the low head pumps.
Yep,
So it
smart.
wouldn't be something they would wanna tag off of.
Absolutely.
We could either do some type of a bag over it,
Yep.
or just paint it a
Paint it
different color,
different color.
or whatever they wanna come up with so that they're aware.
Yep.
And at some point, they'll be doing a walkthrough so they can hopefully educate the rest of the members on why there's different colors or a
Good.
bag over a
Do you
specific
have any
hydrant.
other hydrants in town that are like that on property?
We do not.
Would,
If there is a hydrant that is not active, it is black and painted backwards, and there are a few and far between that are
Okay.
still in existence. Usually they're taken out by plows and cut off right at the
Okay.
ground. But I think it was in the 80s or 90s, there was a few dry mains that were put in, that was a requirement back then. So there's probably a couple kicking around.
Okay.
if any of y'all had a chance to make it to the last select board meeting, but we were able to appoint 3 new employees to
That's great
replace the
news.
3 that we had moved from within to the treatment plant. They will be starting on the short week. It's December 23rd is the Monday, which they will start. But gave them time to give their notice and get their pre-employment testing done. So we have staff, put them in the right place.
Any of them have licenses or
I
anything in
have,
place?
one of the new hires has a D2 in training.
Excellent.
That'll make things easier.
That shaves about 2 years off of somebody walking in off the street. So we're definitely very glad to have somebody like that that applied and we were able to obtain. We'll go right over to system disturbances. Unfortunately, this past weekend, there was actually a fairly large house fire on Old Taunton Ave. And I believe it struck 2 alarms. It was quite the response. Unfortunately, it was a vacant house.
Yeah, sorry.
There were repercussions in the system after moving the volume of water, which is to be expected. They were dealt with as they came in. And unfortunately, a little later that weekend, around 3:30 in the morning on Sunday, we found a main that was calling our name. So we were out from 3:30 till around noontime or so on Hodges Street replacing a section of water main. Glad it stayed intact as long as they needed the water, and if it let go after that, that's fine. We actually did put some paving down today on the 20-foot long hole, just because of the wonderful weather we have now isn't gonna be the same tomorrow morning, and that way we can keep the road, passable and safe for motorists. Chances are we'll be back there in the spring doing some cleanup work and some restoration to the road and to the landscaping, but it should be safe for travel now.
What was the pipe? Is that one of the ones you knew about?
It is one that we had a break, we've had 2 other breaks in that area in the past. It is scheduled.
Phase 3, I believe, wasn't it?
It is further down the road.
Yeah. I studied.
Very good. You've been doing your homework. All right, Scott.
He doesn't show up
So
all
when
the
you're not
time.
here, you're reading. Okay, all right, all right.
I did homework.
I'm proud
Somebody
of you.
about remote
All right.
attendance.
Right.
Yep.
That, yeah, the list that we have in place for those projects is able to be changed around.
Right.
And if this becomes a problematic area, it will move closer to the top of the list. It is not one of the oldest pipes in town, so it doesn't have the same difficulty as some of the older and smaller sized pipes we do. But it's in the corner of town where if we have a pressure drop, whether it be from a fire pump run or something like that, it is exposed to excessive hammer when that source is no longer needed. By looking at it, it was a pressure break. It's exactly what happened. We can't say and point fingers as far as why.
What kind of pipe is it?
AC.
Oh, it is AC.
But we know why the break was caused, we know how it was caused. There is nothing you can really do about it.
Yeah.
It wasn't designed to handle the pressures that we run, and it definitely wasn't designed to handle pressures the way you have this pipe.
So after the fire, there's a surge, if you will, when the hydrants are turned off.
Typically, it can happen. You usually are absorbed by your tank. If the fire pumper is running, they no longer need the water, they can shut that down. The pumper can cavitate a main if they run it too
Sure.
high. That wasn't the situation. I spoke with the fire department. They still had 50 PSI residual, which is more than the required amount. That's at that area. That doesn't mean that other areas of town
No,
can
right.
experience a lower pressure. And when the pressure came back and flooded the area, typically that's what you see. You get the hammer from the movement and the increase in pressure rapidly. So
Okay.
It's unfortunate. It's something that many towns deal with. Some towns have high and low pressure zones to deal with stuff like that. We deal with it other ways. Get the machine on. That's all I have for my happy stuff. I keep looking for that clock. I know we had a visitor coming in, but I don't know if we can jump around. Keep things moving. Oh, they're here? Okay. It's almost time? Okay.
It's almost 7.
We'll get one on his way. He'll be here in about 2 minutes.
Okay. No, thank you.
All right, come on in, whenever you're ready, Jeff.
Mark should be here about 2 seconds.
Okay.
He's got all the plans.
Take all the seconds you need. Yeah. I don't think we should start something else until they get going, so just,
Do you have another meeting set? It's for the 24th, is that?
23rd.
I thought we were gonna talk about, yeah.
yeah, we're gonna wear Santa hats and jingle bells.
I second that.
I might watch it from home now.
I think,
He's gonna do a grab?
I think is the, does everybody wanna go to the next week, or I don't know.
That puts you out to New Year's.
Well, the 30th maybe. I don't know. Tell me what to do. I'm open. You know what I mean? So,
We're gonna have to sign bills, okay?
Yeah, or
Well-
you would have to come in to
Yeah,
get them
you
as
guys
they,
can come in, we don't need a meeting.
as they stack up. We don't have to always have them at a meeting, but, I mean, the 30th is an option.
And don't worry about the plans for the next 2 weeks that we need to address, so can I wait a week?
Funny man.
I was gonna say, I think that was okay for a week.
We got the update from Tara coming shortly on that.
So 1 and 6 gets me to the 7th. Is it the,
I don't think there's any
is-
reason to
is
have it on the 24th.
that Tuesday gonna be January
23rd,
7th?
if anything.
Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna be much for attendance if there is.
Yep.
But,
That works for me.
What day?
It's like a month away.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
if-
that's pushing it. What's the 30th look like?
The 30th is the Monday.
Both are good for me.
It's fine with me too.
Yeah, 30th.
Either Monday's fine.
Let's,
We cut it in half, right?
yeah. Is anybody opposed to the 30th? Very opposed to the 30th, I should say.
No, that,
All right. I think we have a winner.
alright.
You know the rule, Jeff. If your guy's not here at 7:05, you're done.
Just what
We
we
shut the gate when we came in, right?
Yeah, I think it was. I think it was on a remote control too, you just press the button.
There you go. Close.
Oh.
Boom.
Oh,
We're just talking about you.
In time!
Ears were burning. Yeah, we're up. Yes.
Go on.
How you doing tonight?
Good. Very large plan. Put it over everything, maybe, that would work?
Luke's name went down.
Wow.
Jesus Christ.
That's where everybody can see it.
And then if
Where
you
was
could
the
just,
big version?
the one with the color,
It's
yeah,
outside.
that one. If you
That's
put
the
those
one
right
you
on
want?
top, yeah. And then
We'll
it'll,
look up a little
You want that one on top?
yeah, put that.
One or
The whole
both?
thing?
Yep,
Both of them?
yeah.
Coming up.
So,
Yeah, 30.
marketed with Condyne Engineering. So we're just here to make sure and confirm our development and how the development works with the water feed structures and, just to keep our, get our applications in, get our permit fees into you guys. So we wanted to talk to the commission about the proposal and just confirm basically the fees that we are trying to work with Frank on to nail down so we can get those payments into you guys. So as you recall, we have buildings 1 through 5, we call phase 1. We got an approved subdivision through the town, permitted these buildings, permitted them through conservation as well, individual notices of intent for each building. And then we also have what we call building 7, which is on its own parcel that we have fully permitted at this point. And then we have what we call phase 2, which is the remaining 5 buildings, which we have not permitted yet. Haven't submitted anything particular to the town. So we want to come up with, I can show you some,
The golfing range?
Yes.
Mhm.
Right.
Okay.
That's what Dunkin' Logistics.
yep, so that's Duncan, the old golf range.
Okay.
Used to hit that way. Have enough of these, but I have about 6 or so. So we've summarized how we believe the fee structure would be, and that's another 3 or 4, according to your current fee structure. As you see, so we have the phase 1 subdivision. It'll be a 10-inch connection, and per your fee structure, we'd have an initial capital charge of $70,000 for that subdivision. And then we have each building is gonna have a 2-inch domestic service. These are warehouses. The 2 big ones are warehouses. I looked at some of the water usage for like the new one we built down South Washington Street, which is essentially this big, called Spears Manufacturing. A 3-bedroom house uses more water than some of these buildings, so you know that a 2-inch service is what's properly designed for these buildings. So we've itemized that. I could go into, I've been talking with Frank on the actual piping itself. We originally had a couple water services coming in and going off to each building, and then a separate water service coming in, going off to the building. Based on discussions with Frank and what we believe you'd like to see, we've decided to bring a main water main around and loop it through the property, and then each. The one thing we do need to hit is where the sprinkler rooms are designed. So, you know, we've spent a lot of, effort to design this building, the sprinkler rooms there. So we do have to have, a branch off to that sprinkler room, as well as that's where the domestic would come in, as well as to getting to fire hydrants around the site. So, this is a new, just as far as the underground water line structures, we've decided that it is a good design to loop that around and just serve each building as it comes along.
Is that the only loop you have, or is
Yeah,
that
where
like a
do-
dead end?
Where do those go?
These are going just to a hydrant. There's a hydrant on this corner. Show you on this- the big plan. So there's, these are coming around to hydrants.
Wow.
As well as a hydrant here. The fire department, we worked for a while on, they were satisfied with hydrant locations, the fire department. So there's not a lot of benefit to, we don't see any particular benefit to looping that particular, there's no services coming off, it's only hydrants. The services are here. And it's not like a private fire loop where it's tied in multiple places into the building. There's a main fire pump right here. It's not a fire loop per se, so it's just the water. This is what we used to have. We used to just have one stub come in here, tying to the 2 buildings, as well as another stub coming down here tying. So by looping this whole thing, we can have each individual service to those buildings.
Have you seen this
I
version?
haven't.
You're okay with that?
The only 2 areas that would be a concern where we have the double lines on this building here, but we still have the fire and the domestic. That should just be a single main, similar to what we have going here.
Okay.
And then you do your fire connection, your domestic here.
Okay.
It makes no sense to have that double
Okay.
beside
Yeah,
it there.
that's-
I mean, same thing when you run into a situation, I think we had the same on this, on one of the front buildings here.
Instead of a spaghetti.
Instead of having a spaghetti line running beside you, what you're calling a fire, have that actually just be the regular water main and
Okay.
continue down to the end. and then do your domestic tap wherever you need it to be lined up with the building.
Okay.
And it's gonna save you a lot in materials and labor, you know, running it
It'll,
that way.
it'll stop interruptions of either line later when somebody's digging and they clip the smaller line.
Right.
It's,
Okay.
you know what I mean,
Yeah.
a 10-inch line's more rugged and whatnot, and it also, from a maintenance standpoint, cleans things up a bit.
Yeah, because you're gonna be limited on what you can do if there is a disturbance that gets into the domestic line there. If you have 100 or 150 foot line, you know, 2-inch, there's no way to flush that inside the building. You know, if you have the fire main or the water main going by and you can run that to a hydrant, now your domestic line is typically much shorter, and, you know, low flow inside the building will actually clean that off pretty quick.
Okay. Yeah, that's not a problem. I just thought that was short enough, but that's, sounds good.
It's gonna save you a little bit of work.
Yep.
As long as we need to have the hydrants meet the AWWA spec for 500-foot maximum distance,
Okay.
gate valves at 1,000, and anywhere that there's a T, we're gonna wanna have a three-way valve system. So if there is an unfortunate
So
hazard.
here, you'll, like
It'll be-
here, you'll have a
yep.
valve,
Yep.
valve, and valve.
You got it.
Right.
Okay. And that's for, like, on this hydrant here, you know, just the one to the hydrant, right? You don't need another 3 valves on a hydrant only.
No, on the hydrant only, you just need the service valve for that.
Are you gonna have another, how many inlines are you gonna have on that loop? You're just gonna have a 3-gate cluster there, a 3-gate cluster going that way? And do you have any other valving over here so you can isolate?
Yeah, we were
Over by-
thinking of putting one,
Okay.
you know, along that line.
What about at that T?
Yeah, so this would
Do
be.
you like that?
This is just a hydrant, so at least 2, right? Would that be, I mean,
There'll be a valve at the hydrant anyway.
yeah, there'll be a valve out here.
So you got one to shut that way off, and then this way off.
And then,
You know, the same thing on this other side.
yeah, you'll have one here, you might as well have one right here, I guess, right?
That way, in case you have a catastrophe, you might not have to shut down the whole building.
Right. It's beneficial for multiple reasons, but
Yep.
that's definitely one of them. You know, water quality and flushing is also a big one to have the valves in place.
So that's phase 1, or the subdivision we do have approved. Assuming there's no questions on that, regarding both the design and the fees. So building 7 is this building. It's currently designed that, again, this was, in the past, a lot of our buildings did have the 2 separate lines coming off wherever the main was. So currently it is designed to have an 8-inch fire coming in and a 2-inch off of here. Per Frank, he'd prefer to see that a water main brought up and then just have the 2 come off. So we can revise that. According to your fee structure, I mean, I think it feels like, you know, it seems like all we're gonna have is we have a 2-inch and then the 8-inch fire service. You know, I showed on the plan a $10,000 fee for that building. I just wanted to confirm that that was the case. And all the annual fees. We understand each one of these
Right.
fire services
Um,
has an annual fee.
We're gonna need a couple of days to go over the fee structure and really look at what's going on. There's quite a bit of buildings, there's quite a bit of main, and unless you have it all worked out, Frank, I think a couple of days
A
would
couple
be,
days would be sufficient.
would be prudent to let our
I can
office
leave.
staff take a look, and I'm not saying one way or the other, I just don't know.
Okay. I can leave.
And I know,
this day.
I know you guys have advanced on a couple of taps without going ahead and paying for it. Is it because you didn't know, or is it because you just doing whatever you want out there?
Well, it was, we do have 2 kind of separate projects. We have a Leonard Street widening and infrastructure project,
Sure.
and then we have the buildings. So, yes, we did bring those taps over to the property line, but nothing's have come into the property line.
Right.
You know, it felt like it was part of just the infrastructure, establishing the infrastructure, but not connecting it to anything, so we didn't feel it was the same as every other project, but as soon as we found that out, we, you know,
Well, I'm just gonna say,
Yeah.
proceed with caution, you guys have been all here before, and
yep, no, as soon as
We're
we
all-
found out there was
It's well in
concern.
control.
We
It's
all
not the
try to-
Wild West out there.
yeah, we all
It's-
try to cooperate, because I
That's
don't,
correct.
I don't wanna be
Understood.
accused of playing favoritism, I just,
No.
we gotta be the same for everybody, and you guys know this, and let's, and
Yeah.
I appreciate you coming in with this, fee structure and whatnot.
Mhm.
Yeah, as soon as we found out there was a concern, we
No, I'm,
Got it right on.
I'm good with it, it does make,
okay.
physical sense to, when it's open, to go ahead and do it, it just, I just wanna make sure,
Okay.
And then
everybody
just
understands what's happening in the future.
lastly, phase two, it's not even permitted yet, so, you know, there's no work at all going on down here. It's kind of for a later date, we did provide the fee structure. There is an opportunity to tie, because we're gonna bring water line up to in here, and there's a water main that ends on Janet Street up here. You know, we're more than willing to talk about maybe looping that together.
That'd be huge.
Again, that's down the road though, so
Right.
we'll just keep that
No, That's,
as
that's,
we,
that's a long run.
as we begin to work through permitting stages and just design plans, we'll take a look at that. That's basically where we're at with this, regarding waters and.
And so what's, is that it for the water?
For what we need, yes. I think the main focus is, and I'm just gonna, it's okay if you take your time that you need to get the fee structure together, and it is a requisition process, you know, if it takes a month, is there any issues with that, I guess, you know?
Yeah,
No.
usually we requisition for the money that's coming in, it's 30 days, they turn it around to us. So we have that time period that's there. So the quicker you can get back to us, we can get it onto this, we're holding the rec, so we can get it on to the December rec, so we get it in the system before year end.
The timing is okay, I think, it's just, we have to look at the fee structure and what our rules and regs are, and
Okay.
that's all good. I mean, we're gonna run into the winter anyway, so it's really not a big deal.
Well, you can get it booked before year end, or it's coming in January.
No, it's almost impossible to do that now.
Okay.
And our year is, the
Fiscal.
fiscal year, so it's, the year end really doesn't do it. But,
All right.
I wanna go ahead and move on to the sewer if you're done with the water, because I know
Yeah.
there's been some sewer work started, and there's fees associated with that.
Okay.
Have you generated those dollars?
Yeah, so, do another table for that as well. Again, I only have 6 or so copies, so. So as you know, your fee's based on $35 per gallon, an initial connection fee
Right.
per Title V flow. It's pretty simple on the commercial buildings, you know, Title V has a very specific criteria on commercial buildings, so that's retail buildings 1 through 3. I would like to note that those 1 through 3 is a moving target for us based on if we can secure an actual tenant. You know, it could be a restaurant, some things could change.
Correct.
So we're hoping to wait on,
And the restaurant requires us to go back into permitting. So we
Right.
have to go back in front of the town if we're gonna do that, because that's based on seats and everything else.
Right, no, it all changes.
So our preference would be when we go back in on the 3 retail buildings, and that point in time, we'll know decisively what the sewer charge should be,
Right,
based on what's going in.
okay.
The warehouses, we can nail down.
yeah, so, and then the warehouses, so our immediate concern is 4, building 4, 5, and 7. We've given you some approximate employee count, like 20 for building 4, 40 for building 5, and 30 for building 7. An example, again, is that Spears building, there's about 9 people in there. So, again, it depends on the exact tenant. However, if we can get over a hurdle and just agree on what a typical amount of employees, we'd love to get those fees in. To wait till a CO, certificate of occupancy in 10 months and have the exact numbers, that would work too. But we prefer to just kind of take an average number of employees for this type of building based on our experience and just other knowledge, and get those fees in as soon as possible for those 3 buildings. And then phase 2, again, we're not permitted for. That could change at some point. So I'd like to know your thoughts on those 3 buildings and how this table looks. Again, we're doing all
So, in summary, the goal would be to grab the phase 1 buildings on the water service and building 7, and then do the sewer for the 3 warehouse buildings now. And that's what we know. Everything else is kind of unpredictable after that, once we get closer.
If the 3 retail buildings are in phase 1, I think it's almost unavoidable to run the sewer to them, isn't it, at this point? And then later, if you had to go up, if the change was from retail to restaurant, and then just get the difference, if there was? Because you're gonna sewer all of phase 1, right?
We're going to, basically, the pump station is right in this area.
Mm-hmm.
So there'll be some gravity sewer coming out of here, going there, coming out of the front of 4, coming here, and then there'll be basically a stubbed manhole. Basically, we're not planning any construction outside of this line until we, head back to planning. So there'll just be a stubbed manhole waiting for gravity flow. And then
So those buildings won't be started?
Right. We have no drawings for those whatsoever. So building 5, permit is in, building 4 is next on the permit document, building 7 is right behind it.
Okay,
The 3 warehouses. And those will be going into the building part.
gotcha. Well, in that case, as long as there are no runs, I'm not interested in hearing it's all on private property. We're just gonna get the sewer stubs over to the, whatever they are, 1, 2, and 3, is that what I'm seeing?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Nothing on that side of the line. You're going to a manhole and it stops there.
Correct. Yep.
As soon as it leaves the manhole, the fees for those buildings would come our way. Towards those, if those 3 buildings get going and.
If we start down this way, is that what you're saying?
Towards the 3, whatever you're calling them, retail, possible restaurants. I think the whole concept is awesome. It's in a perfect location for what you're doing. I think it's good. I really, again, I gotta just say, we gotta be the same for everybody.
This is the actual design, so we have a stub coming out of here, this is a manhole. I believe the building 4 contractor is contracted to do this, but that's it. There won't
Right, it
be-
stops at that manhole.
Yep, that's it.
Makes sense.
And then, that building 4 contractor will be installing, coming straight through here, as well as straight through here, and then squaring off. None of this will even be installed, it's just comes straight around to create the loading area back here.
Correct.
And there'll be a limit of pavement, this won't be in, that,
I got you.
just,
All right, that makes sense. We'll need the same few days just to take a fine look at what we have, and I'll ask Frank to get in touch with you when we know the numbers, and you guys can sit down and see that everything makes sense, and we'll proceed from there.
So do you think by weekend, or are we talking here?
This is
the Monday?
Tuesday, it feels like a week, you know what I mean? I know you're looking for the fastest possible
It's all
turnaround,
right.
as are we, but.
We can work till mid next week. is
Yeah.
when we need another
No,
time period.
I
to get it in.
appreciate that, we'll get it done by then, it just, we have staffing issues.
Yeah.
I don't wanna be too crazy, but it's a tough time for us right now, so we're gonna just ask for a minute and we will put this on the top shelf. It's just, I wanna make sure it's right. I don't need it fast.
Sounds good.
Okay.
All right. Anything else? Questions?
I think that does it for us now, gentlemen.
Thank you.
I believe, it's okay then. You guys can use these 3 sheets if you want. Keep them and roll them back up. Big roll there.
These guys are signing their phone and issues.
I know. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoy the
holidays.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you around in a second, I don't want to get too uppity.
No, but I might. So now,
We didn't even have cookies tonight. It was a good meeting, man.
they were.
I promise you,
They know they're there, but they covered it with a giant, the big plan, tablecloth. I think, looking at our timeline and the agenda, we're probably right on to Weston and Sampson.
So much ice.
Yeah. Well, the pressure's on. All right, well, we're in a winter hiatus, so nothing's going on.
I liked
Next.
it. I liked it.
No, I do have to say. So actually, we met today with Rocky, Luke, and Frank, and Ryan and I. We had talked at the last meeting about just strategizing a little bit going forward. So we started talking to them just about the best way to approach this after we get through the winter hiatus, where we ended in the ledge, banging on the rock at night. We got to come up with a better plan. So we started the discussions. We're thinking about maybe doing some additional. Well, Rocky was thinking about doing some additional probing out there to get an even cleaner definition of the ledge profile over the next 1,000 feet or so, just to get
When's he gonna
a
do
better
that?
grasp. So we'd like to do that in the winter,
Can drill no
during the day. We'll have to get permission. We'll have to get permission. So there's steps. Yeah, just doing probes and possibly a couple of rock cores, because we've been back and forth between boulders, and right now they're in solid ledge
Got it?
where they ended.
All
So
right.
the boulders were a little easier to deal with. So if they're gonna be in solid ledge for a while, they've got to think about their means and methods when they go from there. And we also talked a little bit about the pump station. They are planning to start digging for the wet well after the first of the year at the Housing Authority property. So they are gonna, over the winter, do some of the excavations over there and get the pump station started while they can do that.
Yep.
So that's the work that's planned. They did submit pay estimate number 4, so this will bring them up to all the work completed to date into their current stoppage right now. I just forwarded this to Frank today, but we've reviewed this and gone back and forth with Rockfield. It's $441,000. And this includes change order number 1 that you guys approved at the last meeting. So we are recommending payment of this pay estimate number 4. And I've got 5 copies with me for signature of the commission.
You're right there. You're right there.
Frank?
No, but I think that's good. Those guys have been struggling. That's, the rock is hard and they're not making a lot of footage.
So Frank, this is the cover letter, and then these are the certified payrolls that we give you as backup. We keep a copy in our file, and then we give a copy to you guys. We're still waiting on, I think, the last week associated with this pay record. I think certified is what we should have those. By the end of the week.
So there are 5 separate ones?
5 copies of the same pay record.
Right,
Yeah.
so it's not fiddling through one big thing, it's each, okay, good.
Yeah, no, and it's just on the top page of each
Excellent.
one, that's all you need. And we have, so we talked, the last meeting, that there were, you know, a few change orders in, we processed, change order number one. And since then, we have worked with Rockio. One of the things that, we had pre-negotiated was they needed to replace a bunch of drainage out on Taunton Ave. And we had agreed to pay them for that work. And that's $32,000. So we
Right.
have prepared a change order for that. I think what we did before was, so Frank had signed these based on the SRF authorizations
Right.
of the town, the vote that the commission took for the SRF. So I think
We're
you guys-
good if we just vote in
if you
favor
guys
of
take a
that.
vote in favor of Frank being able to execute. I'm still waiting on a piece of backup that actually Roger emailed me since I've been here, that I just need to include with this package, and then I'll get these to Frank. But it's $32,000.
Okay, you wanna give it a,
Motion to
Change order
have
number two.
Frank sign the West Main Street Sewer Extension Project, Town of Norton change order,
number 2,
number 2.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Frank, when the backup documents come, you're
Yeah.
free to
So I'll
sign
take it.
that.
Thank you. And I think that's all we have. We talked, Cobb Street, pump station, so we're wrapping up, a report. Frank had put in the budget this year for some work to be done at Cobb Street, so we're finalizing the report that we had done, and that will lead to a design contract to do a couple $100,000 worth of work. I think it was 230, so 250,000 was appropriated. So we'll need to do a contract for engineering to actually put some plans and
You guys
specs out
get
to
3,
bid.
we keep 2 maybe?
Yeah, what did the cover letter say? I always forget. And we can take Rockio's, so I think it says we take,
Retain 3, 1 copy goes to Weston and Sampson, 1 directly to.
so give us 2 of this.
They get 2, we get 3.
Take it to.
Yeah.
That's 3, double check.
So we're gonna work to advance the work for Cobb Street, so that we can get something on the street for spring construction. Because that money's
That
in
makes
this,
sense.
in the
Those-
current year, that was
The
approved.
pictures that I've seen of that place are, it definitely needs a little
Yeah,
attention.
yeah. And I think that's.
Okay, not bad. I'm gonna start.
Yeah, why don't you start?
Alright. So as far as the water side goes, as Frank had mentioned, the water main is under construction between well 6 and the directional drill for the treatment plant. It's ultimately gonna wrap up at the end of this week, do some pressure test sampling and get that online. They also have Sullivan coming back out to install the well at number 5. The hope is that that well will be able to pump by the end of next week. The only concern with that is that we run into the Christmas holidays. So we're at kind of a point right now where, based on some schedules and some training that we need to do with some of the operators and the operators on site, the best plan of attack right now is to probably have water going, for chemical addition and just checking everything out the real first week of January at this point.
Yep.
We're gonna try to get some water into the filters right now. They've done some testing on basically bringing in pumper trucks at this point, but we don't have anything going full cycle from an actual well source with a lot of flow. So continuous flow is something that we need. So our best bet is to kind of wait till after January 1 to kind of start all that. So we've working with Frank a little bit on when operators should come in for some other training for some of the other equipment, vertical turbine pumps, generator, chem feed pumps, and also the filters. So we've got a few things set up over the next week or two for that. And then the training that will happen where we'll be on site to assist the operators with the actual startup of the plant. And get that rolling will probably be the 6th through the 10th or so that week there of January, which will be the best bet for us. Get everything moving at the same time and have kind of our startup and testing for that, having the plant run. And then we're in communication with Mass DP and coordination with them on getting sign off and coming into check out the plant and give approval for well 5 to go actually into the system versus the first few weeks, we're just gonna be pumping to waste, get everything, get the chemistry all set. There is a 5 to 10 day waiting period for some of the water quality sample results to come back in.
Good turnaround.
We checked out the first lab, they said up to 4 weeks, we're using a different lab, usually we're gonna try to push for 5 days, but it may take up to 10 business days to get those results. DEP
Right.
will not provide approval of the treatment plant until those come back in.
What labs are you using now? Analytical?
I think they were going to the one in Middleborough, and they checked that one first, and Frank had indicated too that they've been a little slow and backed up, so we're going to another lab.
There's one in
I wanna say
Mansfield.
Mansfield is the one that we're going to.
Alpha.
Yeah, so that's the one that indicated it might take up to 10 days, but they're hoping that.
Yeah, because they do everything on premises, so,
Yeah,
other than the big stuff they send out, but, yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's VOCs, SVOCs,
Yeah,
standard,
those are the
standard
stuff
water
they send
quality,
out,
so.
yeah.
So there's, they take some time to do
Yep.
sampling on. So overall, we're a couple weeks behind, but, you know, the whole goal is to make sure that everything's being started up at the proper time and that we have the proper guys on site. Now that you have the 3 operators ready to go as of the 23rd, it sounds like, so that'll be excellent. And then as far as, we did add 2 Ts to the water main, as approved at the last meeting, to discuss that the potential future connection for the new wells, 5 and 6, future redevelopment, that we would add Ts for that. So they've been added in to the approximate location to where we assume our best test wells had come back. So we're in the process, getting back onto the replacement wells for 5 and 6. We're in the process of finalizing our test well report and then going from there for next steps. And I think they've been discussed before that there's additional funds from the original Reservoir Street project that potentially would go towards the next round of phase 3, if you will, of replacement wells 5 and 6. So.
Nice.
So that's, you know, we're moving forward on that. Obviously,
Yeah.
that's a goal for the next year or two to have.
What's your feeling on the, I'll call them punch list items? They're getting controllable at the plant, or there's a couple things that are lingering that you feel are...
We wanna, so we've tested a bunch of equipment.
Yeah.
The US Filter Tonka guys are coming back the week of the 6th.
Tonka, really? Do they show up in
Yes.
little yellow trucks and
Yes,
stuff?
they do have their little yellow
You know
trucks.
I had one.
So they're coming out, but they were out last week and this week, and they're gonna be coming back when we have full flow coming out of well 5.
Okay.
To
So
start
you're
the
doing
filters.
one system by system by system, so as not to...
We've done small startups
Yeah.
based on just in the actual wells, I should say, the containment tanks inside the plant itself.
Got it?
Yeah, you don't, you know, with the tanker trucks, it's the limited supply. So we've started a decent amount. You know, there's a few things still to test, but the whole goal is to really test everything once we're in full run cycle with the well water going at 600-700 gallons a minute or so, at least over 5. So, and then we've gone out and we've sampled the groundwater wells around the residuals basin, so we're ready to go when we are gonna have to discharge to the residuals beds for that. So we'll coordinate with Frank on that. We'll wanna train the operators on how to take samples and do that. That'll be a routine sampling that'll be part of the day-to-day operations added to the treatment plant responsibilities, so. But as far as Methuen construction goes, I mean, we've got a pretty good handle on where they're at. I think that, you know, we're running the list of extras and change orders, and we'll, as we talked about before, you know, we'll talk about them in more detail when we have kind of the actual numbers in front of us. And
Right.
kind of just kind of said, these are the extras. We just want to be able to review the actual dollar amounts
Yeah.
and top those out, so. I think overall, though, I think that was pretty much it on the treatment side of things. Not really anything else going on with the other projects at all. Obviously, we're kind of in a winter shutdown too. We're working with Gravity to make sure they get the hydrant flag out and proper painting of the hydrant for Home Street at East Main. And, yeah, bidding in January for Pine Street. So
Right. On to Pine Street.
on to another water main job, yeah. Get that rolling and start replacing the mains.
Yeah, so on the treatment plant, through pay app HT, the balance to finish is still about $1 million, so there's still a fair amount that we're holding.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
and actually, this is, I believe at last meeting, pay estimate 17, Chris only signed 1 out of the several copies. So these are your copies officially, you signed them all up last time.
Okay.
And then I do have the new pay estimate number 18, which Chris has signed all copies, so we got that going.
Does Scott need to sign that?
He wasn't here last, but he can, as long as you want
Oh, I
to.
don't know protocol says.
It's up to you guys, we have our executed copies, so
Okay, all right.
you're more than welcome to sign them. DP's got a copy of that one already.
Okay.
And then we do just need to have these signed off on. And same as with Steve, we'll take 2 copies back, one for Methuen and one for,
We only
Press.
have one pen.
I'd share mine, but I'm mildly contaminated, so I'm
I will probably use some change.
It's on.
Too many change orders.
We have to take it.
Yeah, exactly.
So our engineering agreement for the treatment plant, the services to oversee construction essentially ended when the contractor's contract ended, which was August 28th. And we have had enough budget so far, so what is that, 4 months to keep us going. But given that we are going into January and February, we will need some additional funds to oversee construction. It is part-time, it's not full-time, and also provide additional, assistance with the new operators there. So that amendment, we have to cost it out, but it's probably gonna be in the $65,000 to $75,000 range for January and February. It will all be covered by the SRF loan and the treatment plan appropriation. So, it's still money you have to spend, but it is covered under that, so.
Right.
I wanted to give you a heads up and a chance to discuss anything. If you wanted to, we could do it at a month at a time, but it seemed reasonable, and we're not gonna charge you for anything,
Right, it's
we're
just-
not out there
It's the
for.
inspections that actually happen.
Right,
So is this in addition to, like, you guys had money set aside for overseeing the construction, are we gonna go past the deadline for construction? And now you're gonna be, like, I assume you had money set aside for initial startup. So is you pushing now into the startup money with
so right
overseeing
now,
construction?
probably through December, we'll probably go into some of that, prepare the O&M manual,
Right.
some of that, but, we trust you guys, and we still have money in the contract, it's just, it is sort of dedicated for other things,
Right, now,
so.
let's keep the dedicated funds headed towards where they are, and we know
Right.
you're gonna do some startup stuff, which is, already sounds like it's
Yeah, it's
beginning to be
ongoing now.
at least underway.
Yeah.
So, and I don't think it is prudent of anybody to let the contractors run without your oversight. So, I don't know whether we need to vote, but as it becomes an issue, I guess we can go on a invoice by invoice basis. Do we have to approve an overall amount?
So what I would recommend is that you approve an amount through the end of February, because that seems very likely that it will occur, and we will just bill you, we won't,
No, right.
bill you if we don't show up. So, and obviously if everything's all done by mid-February, we won't spend,
Right, no, that's the end, that's the
right.
end of it.
So, and then probably by early February, we'll have a much better idea. In theory, well 5 will be going through the treatment plant,
Right.
and will be scheduled to start up well 4 and 6 and get that through the treatment plant. So I would recommend doing it for January and February.
When do you anticipate that to be no more than 70,000?
75,
75.
65 to 75,
Okay.
yeah.
So let's,
So we'll get you an amendment,
okay,
because I think you probably need to vote on an actual
So,
document.
then, yeah.
Yeah.
all right,
Yeah, so we'll get that to you for the 30th meeting.
perfect.
Okay, great.
So.
Yeah, Christmas present to you.
Thank you. So I think that's it on the water end, right, Tara?
I think so, unless anybody has any questions about it.
I think we're good.
Okay.
There are no foreseen stumbling blocks that are gonna be like, oh, we need the control panel from Ohio that's back ordered, and there's always something, and it's the most usually obscure thing in the world, but
So that
what
was-
is it this time?
Yeah, so we got that panel, so that's installed. So there, we were starting up everything, we started up the generator real quick just to see what was running, and there is a.
There was oil in the generator, you put oil, because they ship them dry.
The gas center.
We do need a UPS for the filter panel, so that's something that we're
All
running,
right.
but all the other ones do have that, and we should be in pretty good shape. For the most part, some of the little roadblocks that we had at well 5, we don't anticipate at wells 4 and 6, there's a lot less work over at those two, so I can't foresee that there is gonna be 0, but each week that goes by, we find more and we fix them right away, so, Methuen responsible for constructing a full system, so.
Right.
Try and keep them on track and keep them week to week and exactly what needs to happen for startup. So today we had a conference call just going through exactly the parameters for your approval from DEP for the construction documents.
Good.
Exactly who's responsible, everything,
Yep.
responsibility is present.
Is all the SCADA integrated and everything like that? And-
So it's not fully tested, I mean, that's gonna be one of the things that, we're gonna do a lockout, tag out, and kind of feed pumps and make sure all the signaling
Sure.
goes. One of the things that we'll definitely need, for instance, when we do have DEP on site, the phone that gets a call when there's an emergency, he's gonna wanna see that phone ring, and stuff like that, so we talked about that today.
So you gotta do like a, what's it, Title 6 or whatever they call it? all
Yeah,
the
they'll-
line-
The
Chapter
chapter 6.
six.
Chapter 6, I'm sorry.
Yep.
They'll check those.
Title chapter.
Title 5.
Whatever it takes.
Semantics.
So we've got a little bit of a list, and some of the information you guys already have for what you're doing at your wells anyway, but we'll need to sit down and review that with you, make sure that we're all on the same page. The documents just need to be in the treatment plan for when DP gets there. That's a no check. And as Barbara said, we're working on the O&M manual.
There
that,
will be
and
record
emergency-
drawings after that.
Yep,
too.
record drawings to finalize the contract close out at the end, and then, but list of emergency contacts, stuff like that. We just need to make sure everybody's on the same page and have the emergency action plan updated and stuff like that, so. There's certain things that are paperwork on the town's end and our end, and then there's certain things that the contractor's responsible for, so. Just want them all ducks in a row before
Yep,
DP gets out there.
very good.
They have to come out there 3 separate times, one for each time to go for each well, or just the
We're
one
trying
time?
to see if they're just gonna come out the one time. It's possible, they might wanna just see the final, but, as needed, as we said, we're making sure that we're out there as needed. And, as far as, what the permit indicates, it's kinda like, they're gonna approve the treatment process and go into the system. So after well 5, we're under the assumption right now that that's gonna be it.
Right.
But, certainly whatever DP mandates, we'll make
Yes.
sure we follow those rules.
Sure.
Anybody else? Wiggins, you got anything?
Nope.
You're kinda sleeping on us, buddy. Are
No.
we boring you?
So many cookies.
I gotta keep things a little more exciting, don't I?
Yep, no, yeah.
All right.
No.
All right, I think we can do your, we have a meeting date. What's your favorite motion, Mr. Bishop?
Motion to adjourn, sir?
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
We're out.
Clear?